I love Pokemon. It's one of those series that I have such strong memories attached to that I don't think I'll ever hate it. I played my first Pokemon game was Pokemon Sapphire on the Game Boy Advanced, both of which the game and the console were gifted to me by a random kid on the bus. So if you're out there, thank you because I still have that cartridge and I still love Pokemon Sapphire and Gen 3 in general. Recent release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I felt something was missing. I enjoyed the game very much. I played Violet myself, but I felt again something was missing. And it wasn't random enough. I, Jacob Megares, here was playing Pokemon Emerald with one funny gimmick. Randomizer. Everything will be random. Also with Nuzlocke rules, meaning one Pokemon faints, it dies. If you wipe, you lose. You have to restart. No items in battle. One Pokemon per route. Name every Pokemon like it was your child. And I think that's it. Of course, as always, we start Gen 3 in a truck. We go inside of our house, thanks Mom, set our clock, watch Dad on TV, or try to, before going outside, tormenting the neighbors, and then going to find a man getting attacked by a Poochyena. Not a Zigzagoon. No, it is a Zigzagoon. It's Poochyena and Sapphire. Anyways, and I find that my 3 starter choices are Swinub, Magmar, and Groudon. I meant to pick Swinub, but sadly I did select Groudon. It was an accident, so of course, after I immediately eviscerated the Zigzagoon, I named him Oopsie and carried on with my day. Anyways, now with Oopsie the Groudon by my side, I was ready to fight my rival May. However, I learned something very quickly, that Groudon cannot hit anything that is flying. It only knows Mudshot and Scary Face, one of which is not an attacking move, and the other one is a ground type move, which does not hit flying types or Pokemon with the ability Levitate. I was terrified my run was going to end before it even started. Never mind, you can just Mudshot that and it dies. I followed her back to Little Root, grabbed the Pokeballs, and began the challenge. As I've said before, I'm doing a Nuzlocke, meaning every single encounter is very important since you only get one per route and there are a limited number of routes, obviously. And this is when I realized maybe Groudon was the wrong choice, but never fear because I was finally able to catch Snake the Kecleon. After my 33% success rate in catching, I flexed on the local children before moving on to Petalburg City. Talked to my dad, help a kid catch a Pokemon, scared away a stalker, and then I went and tried to catch another Pokemon. It was a Rhydon, and Snake killed it, which means I am now batting 25% on my catch rate, so that's not great. Also, while I was here, I found a fisher who had Mewtwo, and he thought it was a Magikarp. It was not. It was a Mewtwo. I know, because I killed it. Entering Petalburg Forest, I knew I needed to catch this Pokemon no matter what it was. Perfect. With Oopsie's Drought ability, Torchic / Blaziken would be the perfect addition to that team. Being able to use Sun-boosted Blaze Kicks. Is Blaze Kick a Fire-type move? I think it is. Anyways, being able to use Sun-boosted Fire-type moves would be huge. After almost killing it a few times, I finally catch Sassy the Torchic. I named it Sassy because I broke out of so many Pokeballs. I battled through Petalburg Forest with Oopsie the Groudon, Snake the Kecleon, and Sassy the Torchic, trying to level up Sassy and the rest of the team to get up to level for Roxanne's Ace. I ran into a Team Aqua member, beat him, sent him running, and then entered Rustboro City. Heading into the nearby grassland outside of Rustboro, I found my next encounter. We have a Uh-oh. Okay, we're gonna switch into Oopsie and pray to God that it either doesn't boom, and if it does boom. Oh, thank God. Luckily, Oopsie does survive with quite a bit of HP left. I would now have to remember every single time I see a Registeel that something may die. After the explosion, I went ahead and battled all the trainers. And this is when Sassy evolved. I was so excited. Combuskin, one step closer to having a Blaziken to pair with my Groudon, Oopsie. And then something happened. First evolution. This is huge. What? Why am I looking at a Poliwhirl? I have no idea how this happened because I vividly remember looking at the randomized evolutions thing on my randomizer and being like, no, that's a bit too random. I shouldn't click that. And yet I now have a Poliwhirl on my team instead of a Combuskin. So I don't know how that happened, honestly. But here we are. I powered forward to find my final encounter before the gym, which was a Whiscash inside of the Whismer Cave. It's not called the Whismer Cave, that's what I call it because it's full of Whismers. Now, while I wasn't excited at first because I already had a water type in Sassy the Poliwhirl, I quickly realized that Sassy the Poliwhirl only knew Peck and Ember and Scratch, I think. So, not good, if you ask me. So Sassy was actually a huge pickup because it also learned Magnitude and Water Gun. It was huge, and Tickle, which was actually kind of useful in some parts, but I got rid of it pretty fast. But, whatever. Now with my final Pokemon on the team, I began grinding up to level 16 to prepare for the first gym. Anyways, we conquered the gym trainers and pushed our way to Roxanne. But before I was able to push my way to Roxanne, while I was battling the gym trainers, I learned of a massive weakness my team had, which was to grass types. See, I had 2 ground types, another water type, which should be a fire type, and then Kecleon, which is neutral. Unless he becomes a grass type with color change, but whatever. So my only real option when facing a grass type is Kecleon. So that was a problem. So I knew if Roxanne had even a single grass type Pokemon, I could be in serious trouble. Especially if it's like a fully evolved grass type Pokemon, I would probably be in big trouble. Anyways, I go into the gym and I challenge Roxanne. She opens with Swallow, pure poison type, easy KO. I led Oopsie, Mudshot. Dead? Dead. The next Pokemon? Tangela. Immediate, just terrified. Because, again, what am I going to do? I do what I only thing I really can do. I switch into Snake. I also look up this moveset of the Tangela. It knows Absorb, Sleep Powder, Ingrain. 3 very annoying moves. After Snake falls asleep, Tangela begins hitting it with Absorbs. But since Snake the Kecleon has that color change ability, they will switch into a grass type and making those Absorbs do less damage. So 2 turns pass of Absorbs and Constricts, and then Tangela sets up Ingrain. Snake still snoozing, out cold, will not wake up. After the 3rd turn, finally Snake wakes up and I rip off a Tail Whip, lowering Tangela's defenses, hoping I can kill it fast. After another Absorb, Snake finally hits back with this feint attack. I dealt enough damage for it to fall just barely above a 2-hit KO, meaning it was 3-hit KO. So as long as Snake did not fall back asleep, it should be an easy 3-hit KO. Next turn, if the Ingrain healing and Absorb healing wasn't enough, Roxanne decides to use a potion, healing the Tangela back up to full. Then I crit feint attack and finally beat the Tangela. Then Roxanne sends out her final Pokemon, Salamence. Salamence is a dragon flying type. Also, a pseudo-legendary. If you don't know what that means, it means it's very strong. After several minutes of head scratching, I remember Groudon had just learned Ancient Powered, and I realized I've been sitting here for no reason. I could have just switched in Ancient Powered this entire time. So I do that. We hit the first Ancient Power and deal massive damage. It activates the Salamence's held berry that every ace Pokemon has, making it heal a little bit, but an Ancient Power still kills, I'm pretty sure. However, we then get crit Headbutt, and Oopsie almost dies. But we hit the Ancient Power and kill the Salamence, gaining our first gym badge of the challenge. After beating the gym, I see a man get robbed, ignore him, and then go to the Pokemon Center. After trying to go back up to the cave, I he flags me down, stands in front of me, and forces me to stop. To which he tells me, please, save my stuff. And I say, fine. I go to the cave, find out a man is looking for his Pico, whatever that is. And I save his Pico by being the Team Aqua Grunt. Anyways, I bring the bird back to the guy, and then go back to the guy and bring him his items, which then he takes me to the CEO of a corporation. I don't know why, but he did. I left there after talking to him for a little bit when a scientist gave me a cell phone watch, I think, to which then gave me the CEO's phone number. I can only assume what that means. I then left, went to the old man's house whose bird I just saved, asked him, please, sail me to Dewford, the town of the next gym home to Brawley. Once I entered Dewford, I found a guy who was a fisher who gave me his old fishing rod, which I then used to get my first 2 encounters. My first encounter in Dewford City was a Pikachu, which I caught and named Hype Woman. My second encounter was Togetic, which only knew Metronome and Growl and Charm, I think. So that was awesome. I did catch it. Luckily, it did not explode on me. I caught it and named it Guess. My third and final encounter was Gligar, which sadly I did not catch. Look, it doesn't even evolve in Gen 3, okay? And also, I already have 2 ground types. I don't need a third ground type, okay? So, it's whatever. Doesn't matter. After that tragic loss, I went ahead and began grinding. Brawley was normally a fighting type gym leader, but this time he could be anything. His highest level Pokemon was level 19, so that's where I was raising my Pokemon to. And after a couple of mind-melting minutes, I was finally ready to challenge the gym. I was leading Guess, who was at level 10, a little bit lower than it should be, but then again, I really expected it to die. Next, I had French the Wizcash, Sassy the Poliwhirl, Hype Woman the Pikachu, Oopsie the Groudon, and finally, Snake the Kecleon. Probably had 3 Pokemon and led with the strongest one, Krabby. That's a joke, by the way, it gets much worse. Once Guess almost dies to a Vice Grip from Krabby and puts itself to sleep with a Rest from Metronome, I decide to switch it out and bring in Hype Woman. From here, I Thunder Shock and kill it instantly. The next Pokemon is Jirachi. Jirachi is a Steel Psychic type legendary Pokemon, mythical technically, but they're kind of the same thing. It's very strong. That's all you need to know. And I don't know what to do. I switch into Snake thinking Feint Attack is super effective. I found out the hard way it is not. Due to the pitiful amount of damage I was dealing, the 1v1 I was trying to make happen here was not going to work. And Snake would probably die if I left him in. I stay in anyway and use Astonish. It again does no damage, because it's even weaker than Feint Attacks. I don't know what I was thinking. Snake gets hit with a Swift, and it's a crit, dealing it to yellow health. Snake crits back with a Feint Attack, but it doesn't do any more damage than it did before. So I switch into Oopsie with no other idea what to do. I switch into Oopsie and tank another Swift. And then, since Oopsie is slower, he takes another Swift on top of that, dealing a little bit more damage. But finally, he rips off a Mud Shot, killing the Jirachi. And his next Pokemon is Metagross, another pseudo-legendary and another Steel Psychic type. So I was confident in Oopsie's ability to kill it with a Mud Shot. However, before he can Mud Shot, since Oopsie is once again slower, he gets hit with a crit takedown, dealing massive damage to Oopsie. However, the Mud Shot does over half damage, which is good, but not as good as a crit. Since the Metagross was now back to full health after eating its berry, I knew Oopsie could not stay in, and I switched into French. I thought about switching into Guess to tank a takedown, but I thought it was kind of silly to do that when, I don't know, I didn't do it. I probably should have, but I didn't. French switches in, takes a confusion, and as long as he rolls high on a magnitude, this will probably kill. French was again slower, so he tanks a takedown. I did not know Metagross was this fast. Of course, this takedown dropped French below half. We hit a magnitude and we get a 7. Pretty good. However, it does not kill, but another magnitude 7 or higher will kill. I was unsure of what to do in this moment because I knew a takedown could kill Metagross, but a magnitude could also kill Metagross. But French was slower than Metagross, so I whatever, decided to risk it, thinking maybe it could survive. And so I click Magnitude, cross my fingers, and wait. We barely survive a takedown and hit back with a Magnitude 10, the max roll you could roll, and I destroyed the Metagross, winning the gym badge and winning the battle. Now with the gym conquered, I make my way back into Granite Cave to give Steven a letter. Don't need to know who Steven is. Honestly, not important to this run. I hand off the letter to Steven, coming back up to Granite Cave, and then go to Slateport City, where I have a couple more encounters before the next gym in Mauville City against Watson, the historically electric-type gym leader. Once I reach the beach of Slateport City, I decide to fish, because I'm looking for my next encounter, and I fish up a Celebi, which is cool, but there is no way on God's green earth I'm going to be able to catch this. Amen, by the way. I send in Snake, and I say, if this thing survives a feint attack, I will try and catch it. Newsflash, it does not survive a feint attack. It died immediately. After my first failed encounter, I went ahead and began to deal with some story stuff so I can unlock my next couple encounters. And I went to Captain Stern in the museum, handed him the Devon goods, when 2 Team Aqua Grunts marched in and challenged me to a battle. First guy threw out a Regice. Once again, these things all learn Explosion. All the Regis learn Explosion. This one is special because it also is an Ice type, which is strong against ground types. Since I was leading Oopsie and I assumed it would explode, I decided to just go for a Mud Shot, which it icy winded, making me slower. It was super effective, but it still didn't do very much damage. So I felt kind of safe sticking in there. The next turn, I go for Mud Shot with Oopsie, which of course misses because it's 95 accuracy, and I hate this game. But then Regice misses its own Icy Wind, which is also 95 accuracy. So I switch into Sassy after this, thinking I'll Ember, since Sassy already resists Ice, and also I've seen it survive an explosion before. Maybe it can survive an explosion if it goes for it, and it'll definitely survive some Icy Winds. A few Embers later, and finally the Regice goes down. Guest also levels up and learns Yawn, a huge move that will be very useful for a very long time. The next grunt sends out a Jolteon, which French handles easily, and then a Swablu, which goes down to a couple of water guns from, you guessed it, French, the Whiscash. With that out of the way, I move to Mauville City, where I'm going to have a couple more encounters on the way there, and a few more once I get there. My first encounter just outside of Slateport is a Pineco. It explodes. I do not catch it, but no one dies, thank God. Almost dies, but no one dies. Anyways, found some water just right past Slateport. Fish up a Dustox, which I named Stinky, is level 5. I will probably never use it unless I'm very, very, very... unless I really need it. I couldn't think of the word. And finally was a Misdreavus, which I thought about killing, but I did catch. And I didn't write down what I named it, and I don't remember what I named it. So now that I had all my encounters before the May battle, I went ahead and battled May, who now had 3 Pokemon. She led with a Golduck. I switched into French and began hitting Magnitude before the Golduck disabled Magnitude, which forced me to use Tickle, which lowers your defense. Anyways, I used Tickle, lower the Golduck's defenses, and then once Magnitude comes back, I hit Magnitude 10, it dies. Next was a Hoot Hoot. I switched to Hype Woman, Thundershock, shoot it out of the sky. The next Pokemon was a Baltoy. I was so confident it would explode. I switched immediately into Oopsie the Groudon. It didn't explode. So Groudon tanks a hit. Then I use Mud Shot, realize it has Levitate, then use Slash, and it dies. That's the May battle. Once we reach Mauville, we immediately go looking for new encounters. My first encounter is a Weedle, which I named Stinger, because it has a stinger. Now, at this moment, I was not excited at all. But then I realized, wait a second, this evolves randomly. This could be anything. I didn't remember that right now, but I'll remember it later, and you'll figure out what happens. I then go and get my next encounter, which happens to be a Cradilly. A huge pull for me, because I needed a Grass-type Pokemon to deal with opposing water types and other grass types, honestly, because I needed something for that. So I fish up the Cradilly. I'm so excited, and then I name it Piranha. I look up its learn set. It only learns Giga Drain at level 55, and no other grass type moves. So, and you may be thinking, well, Jacob, you can get the TM for Giga Drain. And yeah, I could if the items on the ground weren't randomized. So, it could be anywhere. I have no idea where it is. But with that was the final Pokemon I could get before the gym in Mauville. So, I go ahead, beat all the gym trainers, and then go to the grass to continue grinding. So knowing that Stinger could evolve into anything, I then run around in the grass till it finally evolves into a Rapidash. Again, huge for me. Because again, I need something for grass types. Because I only have, well, at this point, Cradilly, who knows Acid. So now with Rapidash, I can finally, it only learns Flare Blitz at level 63, I believe. So it only learns Ember and Fire Spin by level up. And then Flare Blitz at 50 or 60, so yeah, so it's like useful. It's like useless right now. So I put it in the box where it could stay forever. Anyways, I want to go ahead and begin grinding for this gym leader, for Watson, the gym leader. I began to grind up to level 24 in the wild after beating all the gym trainers. That's where the problems start. I run into a Wobbuffet in the grass. And this was bad on a few levels because Wobbuffet has an ability called Shadow Tag, which for what I was leading was very bad because I was leading Guess the Togetic, which its only attacking move was Metronome. So, and I couldn't leave that battle because it had Shadow Tag. So I was stuck pressing Metronome. And you can probably assume what happened. Yeah, Guess eviscerated itself with an explosion, killing itself and the Wobbuffet in the process. So that was death number 1, which was honestly really disappointing. I was honestly just glad it had Yawn, so I could like put things to sleep, which would be huge, and Charm, which was also huge, and Metronome was just funny. But it's dead now, so I can't do any of that. So now with rage in my heart, I charged into the gym, blaming Watson for the death of my Pokemon. So Watson leads a Barboach, I think that's how you pronounce it, it's a water ground type, the unevolved form of Whiscash, or French, if you will. It's a very difficult type combination for my team, since I don't have a grass type, despite what you may believe. The weird thing about this battle was that I think I was legitimately rattled because I had just lost Guess because I was making some bonehead decisions. So I was overthinking what I should switch into for Barboach because I don't want to put in Groudon because I didn't want to take him too much damage. I didn't want to switch in French because I didn't want it to take too much damage from water guns or whatever. And I was just very indecisive of what I should do. Finally, I switched into French and hit it with a Magnitude, get Magnitude 8. Barboach hits French back with a Magnitude, dealing a small chunk of damage. It was a Magnitude 8, and it did not enough damage. And then after another Magnitude 8 from the Barboach, I finally hit a good Magnitude and kill the Barboach. The next Pokemon was a Goldeen, and this is where I realized I was actually one level under the ace. Again, must have been because I was rattled or stupid. I don't know what happened. Anyways, the Goldeen uses Horn Attack and crits, of course, dealing huge damage to French, who hits back with a Magnitude 7 and deals some decent damage in return. I switch into Hype Woman and proceed to take a ton of damage from another Horn Attack. I use Thundershock anyway. Yeah, bring Goldeen into the red. Decided to use Supersonic, which was kind of silly. Thankfully, it misses the Supersonic. And I realized at this point that this is actually Watson's ace, because it eats a citrus berry and heals itself back to basically full. With this realization, I begin to double team with Hype Woman, hoping maybe I can dodge a couple more Horn Attacks and Supersonics. Luckily, it misses the first Horn Attack, and I begin to Thundershock. I bring it into the range of the final Thundershock, when Goldeen hits a final Horn Attack, bringing Hype Woman down to 7 HP. HP. But I hit the last Thundershock and I get Goldeen the ace. Watson switches into Venomoth. I switch to Oopsie, which Venomoth hits me with a Confusion. Of course, it crits. Still doesn't deal a huge amount of damage. Anyways, I used Slash and killed the Venomoth. This final Pokemon was a Magneton. I assumed it had Levitate. Probably should have Mudshot anyway just to make sure, because it would have been super effective. But instead, I used Ancient Power, deal very little damage. I do get the Omni Boost, which means I raise every single one of my stats by 1. But the Magneton hits back with a Sonic Boom, dealing exactly 20 damage. Magneton uses Sonic Boom again, but misses this time my Ancient Power, dealing slightly more damage, but still not enough. Magneton uses another Sonic Boom, bringing me down another 20 HP. I Slash, praying for a crit. Sadly, do not get that crit, and instead take another 20 damage, bringing me down to 16 health, which means another Sonic Boom will kill me, which means I need to switch out yesterday. So I switch into Sassy, hit it with an Ember, take another Sonic Boom, and then finally kill it with an Ember, gaining myself the 3rd gym badge. Right after the gym, I teach Sassy Rock Smash, just to give it a real attacking move, and also because I need a Rock Smash. Using Rock Smash, I then break through the rocks and head to find my new encounters. I find a Chinchou, which, another water type, yeah, but it does evolve, and it is an electric type, which is kind of good. I already have an electric type, but, whatever. I catch the Chinchou, name it Lantern, and then move on to the fiery path, to which I find a Dugtrio. Now, I didn't really want to catch a Dugtrio because it's a Dugtrio, and I already have, again, like 3 ground types. So I tried to switch out, and I was going to catch it anyway, but I realized that it has Arena Trap, which is Shadow Tag, but a different name. And of course, I had Hype Woman leading the pack, because I was trying to level her up a little bit. Needless to say, Hype Woman almost died, and I was lucky that Quick Attack did as much damage as it did, because that would have been bad. I exit the path, reaching Route 112, which I find a Spinda that sadly Sassy burns with Ember and then kills, and so that's another failed encounter. I leave and decide to go into my next area to find a Pokemon, Route 113. That Pokemon that I find there in the Sooty Lands is a Loudred, a pure normal type. It is kind of strong. I put it in the PC for now since I did have Snake, who was already kind of my utility guy, if you will. So it was nice to have, but I wasn't going to use it. I named it Screamo after my sister's favorite type of music. Once I got to Route 14 past Fall Arbor Town, I found a Masquerain with the Intimidate ability, which is very good. I caught it and named it Illusion. On my way to Mount Moon, I was going to get that item that's behind a breakable rock. And when I broke the rock, there was a Vibrava behind it. I did catch it. I haven't used it because, again, I have two ground types on my team. One of them is a legendary, so it's just in my PC. I named it Shake It after the hit TV show Shake It Up, starring Zendaya and Bella Thorne, waiting to either be used or released. So my next encounter was a Hoot Hoot in Mount Moon that I named Scanning and caught. But while in Mount Moon, I go ahead and talk to Team Aqua and Team Magma and tell them to both stop. They say no, lol, and Magma leaves, heading for Mount Chimney. Anyway, I talked to a scientist who complains to me, telling they stole my meteorite, to which I say, okay, and then go to Mount Chimney. I go up to the gondola and then face off against some Team Magma grunts, beating them without much trouble, and then I get to Team Magma admin Tabitha. She threw out a Medicham, which I easily killed with a Mudshot. Her second Pokemon, on the other hand, was a Claydol. I used Mudshot again, forgetting that this thing has Levitate, take a Confusion in return, or a Psybeam, one of the two. Deals a bit of damage, so I switch into Snake, preparing to Feint Attack. After a few Feint Attacks, bringing it down into the red, the Claydol explodes, killing Snake, the Kecleon. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. I was shocked. There's not a word to describe the feelings I was feeling in my heart, because I knew in my heart that Claydol and Baltoy learned Explosion, and that anytime it could go boom. But since I already fought a Baltoy once and I didn't see it explode, I was like, okay, well, maybe it doesn't know explosion. So that was the death of Snake, which was really sad because I really liked Snake. I threw the next Pokemon through the Beldum. I switched into French, Magnituded, it died. Then they sent out a Slugma, I Water Gunned, it died. And that was Tabitha. Done. Immediately after the battle, scanning who I was holding in my party with the EXP share began to evolve. I was pleading that it evolved into something useful and something good because, I'd been beaten down by Rapidashes that don't learn fire-type moves, Credillies that don't learn grass-type attacks. I was just weighed down by these Pokemon. And praise Arceus because it evolved into a Scizor. It can tank a lot of hits with its steel typing, so honestly it was a huge addition to the team. Anyways, that was that. It was very sad. I went ahead and I laid Snake to rest, but knew that scanning the Scizor would take its place and maybe do as well as Snake did. Once the service was over, I went ahead and grabbed Credilli, put him back in my party, and then climbed back up the mountain and challenged Maxie, the leader of Team Magma. Maxie leads Slacking. I, of course, lead Oopsie the Groudon. Slacking, if you don't know, has the ability Truant, which means it only moves every other turn. And that is to balance out the fact that it has like a 150 attack stat, which is kind of bonkers, but, go off, Game Freak, I guess. It feint attacks, dealing minimal damage to Groudon. However, Oopsie Mudshots back, dealing over half damage to the Slacking. On the Slacking turn, Maxie uses a Super Potion, healing it back up to full. I use Slash for reasons, and then Ancient Power for more reasons, I guess, and deal less damage than I would have with a Mud Shot. It then uses Slack Off, healing all that damage back, and then Maxie uses another Super Potion after I deal a little bit more damage with Slash and Ancient Power. I make the bonehead mistake to switch in Sassy, thinking Rock Smash does super effective damage. Fun fact, Rock Smash sucks, so it does very little damage. Seeing this, I switch immediately back into Oopsie. I Mudshot and kill it from yellow, which I could have done at any moment beforehand if I had not used Slash and Ancient Power. Whatever, moving on. Next is Vulpix. I use Mudshot, it dies. Then final Pokemon is Metatype. I Mudshot, it uses Protect. I Mudshot again, it dies. Maxie is defeated, and I tear down Team Magma because they killed my precious Snake the Kecleon. Climbing down the mountain, I get my next encounter, which is Ekans. Not super exciting, but it does evolve, which is something. I name it backwards because, fun fact, Ekans is Snake backwards. So that was awesome. For the gym, I grab the egg from the old woman and then ride my bike back and forth until it hatches, because that's how eggs work. Finally hatches into a Parasect. Again, grass type. Grass bug, but still grass type. Doesn't learn grass type moves. So yeah, I'm not going to use that either. I put Lantern on the team in anticipation for its evolution, and then go into the gym and begin to train. This is where I run into a strange thing for a once fire type gym. One of the random gym trainers throws out a Kyogre, and of course I was leading Oopsie at the time. So it was kind of a bit of a face-off. Of course, the Kyogre was faster, setting up so its reign was now permanent. I switch into Hype Woman, planning to hit it with a nice Thunderbolt, which it had just learned recently, when I get hit with a Rain-boosted Water Pulse, which kills Hype Woman instantly. So that was stupid. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was expecting it to use another Ancient Power. Which dealt very little damage the first time. But, I mean, yeah, it was a mistake. Luckily, we do have Chinchou, the Lantern the Chinchou, which does learn Spark at this point, which is kind of useful. So I put Hype Woman to rest, picked out Illusion the Masquerain from the box, and got to work training. After like 30 minutes, finally, everyone was at level. Also in this time, Lantern evolved into a Starmie, which was kind of cool. Another water type, not super exciting about that, but it is a water psychic type. I did learn that it only learns Confuse Ray by level up, which is interesting, original, and useless. Also, Starmie knows Spark, which it doesn't normally know, but since it evolved from a Chinchou, it is now technically by electric type because I use it to take down opposing water types and flying types, which is kind of funny. I also evolved backwards, who evolved into a Metapod, and then evolved into a Wheezing. Or not a Wheezing, a Coughing. So we can evolve it again, and maybe it'll evolve into something useful. I go ahead and lead Illusion in the gym for his Intimidate drops, thinking, whatever it throws out there is going to get an attack drop, which is always good. Luckily for me, she brought out a Why Not, which is the unevolved form of Wobbuffet, and you guessed it, also has Shadow Tag. Also, it learns Mirror Coat and Counter, meaning if I hit it with a special attack and it used Mirror Coat, I would get hit with reflected damage. And if I used a physical attack, which I learned both, then I would get hit with a counter and it would deal back reflected damage, meaning I'm screwed. And I just wasted 30 minutes training up a Pokemon that's going to die in the first gym I use it in, which is awesome since I was falling asleep from the amount of grinding I had to do because it was so frustrating and boring. Anyways, after a few gusts, it finally gets killed by a counter. I switch into scanning, hit it with a Metal Claw, it dies. Next Pokemon was a Marshtomp. I used Metal Claw, it died. A few times I used Metal Claw, it died. Next was a Furret. I Metal Clawed, it died. Got an attack boost. Finally, Teddiursa, Metal Claw, died. Gym over. A Pokemon died for that. For a couple of normal... You have to understand how upset I was. I didn't even give it a proper funeral. I was so upset. After the gym, I got the Go Goggles from May, and I went to the desert. I tried to get something. It died, I think. So I went into the Sand Mirage Tower, caught a Skitty, named it Worst Day Ever, and then was done. And that was part 1 of my randomizer Nuzlocke video. Part 2 will be out in 2, maybe 3 weeks. So if you liked this video, please leave a like. If you want to see the next part, do subscribe and do turn on notifications because I, want you to. And I'm sure you'll want to watch it because it'll be a shocking ending, I'm sure. Or it won't, I don't know. I haven't done it yet because I have trouble focusing, and if I do too many things at once, I will die. Part 2 coming soon. Goodbye.